I'd like to call the regular council meeting for the town of Bay-Westfield for Monday, June 26, 2023 to order at 7:00 p.m. We respectfully acknowledge that Bay-Westfield exists on the traditional Woolastoquet land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as Woolastoq, along which live the Woolastoquet, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. We, the staff and elected representatives, pay respect to the elders, past and present, and descendants of this land. Good evening, everybody. Last Thursday, I was incredibly proud to deliver the first State of the Town address for the town of Bay-Westfield. It was a really wonderful morning, it was well attended, and it was very, very clear that in our case, 1 + 1 + 1 does not equal 3. It equals far more than that. With our council, our leadership team, and our community, it was very, very evident that we far exceed 3 as a group, and was very, very, very proud to be there and to deliver that on behalf of council, staff, and our community as a whole. It was a great opportunity to talk about what we've done, where we're going, what we're doing now, and what our vision is for the future. So I want to thank everyone that was a part of that event, that attended, that planned it, and I'm looking forward to the next one in 2024. I also want to take a quick moment to congratulate our CAO, John Answind, on being awarded the Level 2 Professional Certification in Local Government Administration. Congratulations, John. Thank you for your dedication to the work you do for our town. Record of attendance. Let the record reflect that we have full council attendance this evening with Deputy Mayor Toole attending virtually. Item 5, agenda approval. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Bay-Westfield approve the agenda of June 26, 2023 as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any? There being none, we'll move on to item 7, public hearings, presentations, delegations, and petitions. This evening we have quite a number of presentations, and so I'm going to have my phone here to make sure that they're timed appropriately. Every presenter gets 10 minutes, and I've been, they designed me a sweet little flag here, so yellow is you're almost at the end of it, and red is your time is up. So this will hopefully keep us on track and keep our meeting timely and efficient. 7A, bursary presentations. I'm absolutely thrilled and honored to be able to present bursaries to Mackenzie Pond and Carter Reed on behalf of the town. If I could get Mackenzie and Carter to come up. Carter, this is yours. Congratulations and best of luck in your future. Mackenzie, same with you. Congratulations and best of luck. We look forward to seeing your successes in the future. 7B, RCMP quarterly report. We have Sergeant Luke Sampson here with us this evening. Sergeant? Nice to see you.
Good evening, folks.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. All right. With the flag right quarterly report, I've just went over it once again. I want to reassure everybody that we had a meeting, and some of you weren't privy to the meeting, or maybe it's been reported back to you. What was it, a month ago in Hampton? Month and a half, 6 weeks, 2 months? Just approximately. And I speak very frankly to all of you. It was not very constructive, is the best way I can. Not on our end, not on your guys' hands, just like the total dynamic of that meeting was. I'm not sure if I can use the word useless, but here I am. What I want to bring home though is that the fact that our priorities are set for Grand Bay. When I come talk to you, it's about Grand Bay. It's not about whatever else is going on in the province. I try as much as I can to fix on local issues. I can't fix everything. However, it's looked into in that lens. I'm not looking at this with a provincial lens. I'm looking at this with of course I have to keep that in the back of my head, provincial lens to some degree, but I focus on the issues at hand in the community. In reading the quarterly report, I saw that some of you guys had it on your computer there, and I will just touch base on a few quick points from that, and I'll move on to something else afterwards. The biggest portion to this is if you account for approximately 2 quarters, I would say, venture to say almost 3/4 of that year, so 9 months, we're short staffed. So our stats are not where they should be or where we would like them to be. The positive side to this is, and this is great news, I can't share too much with you guys yet because I've been told to keep quiet on this, but we are getting more bodies for Grand Bay-Westfield, and that's official as of a week ago. But extra positions that we didn't have before. Not like seconding someone like a full-time position. I can't reveal the numbers yet because they're not set in stone, but it's official that we are getting a new position. That being said, for the past 2-3 months, it was me and Jean-Luc, for the ones of you guys that know Jean-Luc is, plus all kinds of overtime members. As of this month, we got Julie Rogers back, Rogers Marsh, sorry. We got Tim Smith back, we got John Galloway back. Next month we're getting Jerome, our new recruit. And I just heard that our member Renita Blanc from St. George is being transferred. So by rights, we'll only be 1 short. There's still going to be overtime for times where people are sick, gone, but it's going to be reduced dramatically compared to the last few months. And a little bit of breathing room for me as opposed to being on the road taking calls all the time, more on an admin lens, which is supposed to be my duties. So those stats that you've seen there will increase as far as visibility, traffic enforcement, public relations is one of my biggest things for this year as well. It's been voiced numerous times from your guys' end. I know we've talked about the bike rodeo. Yes, this was organized by the town. More initiatives that comes from the RC. That's something you're going to see. It's hard now because the school's closing, so you won't see us. Obviously, you won't see us in the schools. But even in the past week, Julie has been very, very present in the schools as far as school patrols, school visits, the parades, events with the town, or not the town, but the towns. Sorry, the communities with police. A big one as well for this coming Saturday, July 1st, we have a boat patrol with a joint operation with the RCMP, like our RCMP patrol and the Department of Natural Resources. What will that consist of is us being on the waters, doing as many contacts as we can with boaters. Is it going to be enforcement? To some degree if it calls for it, but the main goal to it is presence, right? And show that we're actively on the water, because that's been voiced by council in the past, but it's been voiced by some citizens saying we never see you guys on the water. The deal we have with the province, and when I say the deal we have with the province, with the Department of Public Safety is the water is there and we cover the roads. That being said, it's the first province that's like this, don't ask me why. We will have more operations in the future, so that's not just Canada Day. That's a big one. I know I'm kind of all over the map because I'm so excited to tell you we're getting more members. In the quarterly report, one thing that you'll see when it shows the drug enforcement 0, that's a terrible stat to analyze, and for many reasons, because if you look at one of the stats as we've closed most of the reports, just so you know, if you come in and say, I think my neighbor's selling drugs, it'll be created as an information file, concluded. Doesn't mean the file itself is not being looked into, it's just added in a bigger file somewhere else. So the stats reflect that poorly, is what I'm saying. So we could have a big drug file where we have 50 occurrences report. They're concluded, but the main event is still ongoing. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of, and it's not drug work of all work I've done in my career, particularly, sorry. It's not work we talk about, because there's a reason we don't talk about it. It's not like, oh yeah, we're looking through break and enter. Well, if we're targeting someone for something that's more covert, well, we won't be sharing this as openly, so to speak. My main point of contact would be John again if I have some bigger operations or anything on the go. Right now, nothing of major significance for the community. Tying loose ends and just getting those members back to work, kind of back in the swing of things, so to speak. That's pretty much where we're at. It's all it's very positive. Knock on wood. Last time I told you we were doing good with bodies and went the complete opposite way. Got me sidetracked there, but I'm not fired. But that's pretty much it. I won't take much of your time.
Thank you, Sergeant. Does the council have any questions? Councillor Bellman?
I'm glad there's 3 better than 2 and 4 better than 3. 4 better and more presence the better. People are saying, where are you there, Chair?
Oh, it's been a battle. Like I said, the last 3 months of my head were lower because I was on call every day, working all the time, trying to not give all the files to Dominic. And it's been a juggling act.
Any other questions for the Sergeant? I have a couple questions. First
Yes.
of all, I want to thank you for your commitment to the priorities specific to Grand Bay-Westfield. I know at that meeting that we both attended, the way it was set up was the MPSA communities had their priorities, and we were lumped in with the other Regional Service Commission municipalities under the PPSA. And as I mentioned in that meeting, the priorities for Fundy St. Martin's can be very different
Absolutely.
than the priorities for Grand Bay-Westfield. So I have to thank you for your commitment to our local priorities as well. In that meeting too, there was reference to someone being hired for the community policing position. Do you know if that's?
Yes, sorry, I forgot to touch base on this. One of the activities from this weekend was the bike patrol, or the bike rodeo, sorry. Megan's Wells, I always pronounce it wrong, was one of our admin person in Hampton, and she's been hired, and that was her first assignment there this past, for the bike rodeo this past weekend.
Okay,
So that person is hired, is actively working within our community, and this happened much faster than we anticipated. Because where it was a local person, the hire went a lot faster in that sense. But no, this is actively engaged, and we're making headway with it.
That's good news. I also want to ask as well, there was, I noticed that another municipality had put out a Facebook post regarding that you can now do criminal record checks online. And I know that doesn't include vulnerable sector checks.
That's right.
But I wanted to make sure that that was still available, and if it is still available, how do people access it?
So if they go online on the RCMP website, I don't know the ins and outs of the instruction, I know it's all there. It's a great tool, but it's also very deceiving because I would say, I just asked Courtney this on last Wednesday, I said, how many do you get that? The bulk majority we get are vulnerable sector. Most jobs people would apply for or volunteer events or anything like this, it's all, I would say, I don't have the real stats, but I would say 90% of all the criminal record checks we do will involve a vulnerable sector. You'll still have to come to the dashboard and get that done.
But it's a step forward, I guess.
It's a step forward, and to be completely honest with you guys, I'm not sure what we can't do with vulnerable sector. I don't know the reasoning behind it. Again, that's beyond my understanding, but I'm sure we could be there at one point, but it's still front counter appearance for those.
And I have one more point too. We talked at that meeting and at subsequent meetings about the online crime reporting tool.
Yes.
For anyone that's watching tonight, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the crime reporting tool, I'll say this, like any, I know Mark, my area inspector, kind of touch base on that. Number one, if there's something in progress that's of concern, like something violent, something of priority, call 911. We don't want people starting to go there and start reporting things that are not in progress. The online reporting would be for something, and especially I'm not saying something that's necessarily 911, let's say an assault in progress. I would consider this a 911 occurrence. But if you do have someone, let's say a suspicious person in on your street driving, it might not be a 911 worthy thing, but I would still call the police to report it as like to have an officer attend right away, so to speak. Maybe not right away, like it's a priority one, but enough to make a patrol. The online reporting system, it's a good tool, but for our community, I would say still call the police. I'm a big proponent of calling and speaking to someone. I hate when I call a call center and I'm passed on to 16 different people and use our website and just call. Speaking to someone is an art, it's lost, but it's still very valuable. For online reporting, it's minor crimes, fender, something that has to do with insurance. Maybe you had a broken window at your cottage 6 months ago and you just realized it happened today. It's not major, it's still important that it's reported, a number will generate, an officer will get back to you, but it might not be as timely as you would like if you call the police, is what I'm getting at. So there's not, coming from Manitoba, the online reporting system is huge because several thousands of complaints could be filtered through this. As to the size of our community here, it's not very big. So if you do it, I'd rather talk to someone saying, okay, I'll carry the file, that's it. If we had thousands of those complaints, now it'd be a much more highly system. But that's pretty much it for that.
All right, thanks, Sammy. Councillor Day?
Yes.
I tried to call the office the other day, could not get an answer.
And those complaints, and that's important that you voice that to me, because I've been telling you that up and bringing that up. And that's not a Grand Bay thing, like I've said before, that's an RCMP New Brunswick thing.
But,
And I know I'm not supposed to say this, but if you guys are on, I pass this on to the community, I don't care. If someone calls and they're on the phone for more than 5-10 minutes, call 911. They have to dispatch a 911 call to us. I don't care how not important to call this, but I want people to get through to the police.
okay,
It's not acceptable that, to give you a quick, I don't want to spend too much time on this, I used to be a supervisor for dispatch in Manitoba. And I have a screen where dispatch is, how long someone's been on hold. It never goes past 2 minutes. Here I hear stories of 20, 30 minutes, that's unrealistic. It makes no sense. So if you have complaints like this, email me, send them to me, let me know, because this is pushed forward for their quality control. And see where we can improve on.
all right.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Sergeant? There being none, thank you, Sergeant. We appreciate your coming and speaking with us and letting us know what's going on in the community.
You bet, and if there's anything of concern, I'm an email away, I'm a phone call away, you guys just call me. Right? I'm on the range all week, but I still have I'm in Fredericton all week there shooting, instructing there, but if you need anything, by all means, send me an email, call me, and I'll answer as promptly as I can.
I appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you.
Take care, have a good evening, folks.
You too.
So the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
Second.
Second from Councillor Duffy, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you very much. And then we are on to 7C, climate change abatement. We have Mr. Wayne Brown here to present to us. Welcome, Mr. Brown, thank you for joining us this evening.
First of all, I'd just like to have the opportunity to worship your mayor. Or definitely mayor, just one, just appeared on us there. The pleasure that I had to be part of the 1990 Green Plan for the Government of Canada. I learned a lot, and some of the initiatives that were available then, I think can be used here today, and perhaps make our community a trailblazer in abating climate change. I don't know you got anything up there. One of the things we discussed is that there has been a change, and not a positive one, over the past 500 years. Most of those changes were due to industrial revolution. And I think if we go to the next slide, I can't tell. Anyway, we have agreed that the best way to abate climate change is to imitate nature. We also agreed upon that there's not one size for all. And that we need to look at avoiding invasive species into our community because they always present risk. Where are we anyway? No screen over there, so I can't see this one very well. There been changes in our forestry practices. In 1990, the scientific community said we need to protect at least 25% of our forests just to sustain our forests. 50% to combat climate change. We're not doing a very good job working between 2 and trying to reach 10%. Too little, too late. Then a change in agricultural practices, change in fishery practices. I want to go down a little bit farther. Families once made and mended our own clothing. We grew and raised our own food. When I was a child, that's how we did it. We have learned that there have been never just buy and discard. Canadians waste 60% of the food we produce. Yet 2,000 to 4,000 New Brunswickers, school children, K to 12, go to school hungry. Where's the logic there? Back in my day and my parents' day before, I said we grew and raised our own food and we didn't waste any. What was left over, we preserved. We don't waste it. We have noticed a change in our deer population. For the past 30 years, 70% of our deer population has declined. We have noticed decline in our insects, our pollinators, which affect our food supply. We have to do something with that. We have noticed today an extinction of thousandfold since the Industrial Revolution. 30 years ago, it was only 100 times. There were 10 times worse than 30 years ago. Where do I want to be in the next 30 years? Unless we do something different. I'm ahead of it now. Those fish are caught in a brook in the back of my house. The brook that no longer exists, it dried up. Because the headwaters that fed the brook were drained. They built school on it. I think the kindergarten school today. That affects a lot of things. The scientific community tells us we must address runoff at the source, not the inner pipe. We need to preserve the water that's there in the reservoir, and the designs to do that. That's my sister back in the early 50s. She was on it. Our rivers used to freeze in November, thick enough to skate on. And stay that way until mid and end of April. I used to break up to May. Not how do you freeze them today? So, are we still have climate change deniers that things are not happening? I'm quite sure the government of the day try to wish they accepted the initiatives we talked about 30 years ago. We will not be in as bad a state as we are. I don't want to get ahead of everybody. I can't see the screen. As I said, trees are great reservoirs. A 25-year-old tree will contain 100 gallons of water. The Bay-Westfield fire, from all the pine trees, just the top blew off, burned off. The trees didn't burn. Now they burned right down to the ground because we got shrubs. Reforestation, there's more to a forest than just planting trees. We've got to have a diverse forest. Things we can do to conserve energy is how we landscape our property. Put hardwood trees on the southern sides. That gives you shade in the summer. Wintertime, no leaves, sun shines on your building. On the northern side, plant your evergreens, the shade against the wind. If you look at a building envelope, there's a thin layer all around your envelope that helps preserve energy. If the wind allows to blow, it takes that little envelope away. So we need to address how we plant trees. We can't do that in our properties. We need some real estate. Just 1 acre of land can generate enough oxygen for 70 people to breathe. We cover that with buildings, pavement, streets, parking lots. For every acre we do that, we deprive 70 people of breathing. So what can we do? We can heat and cool our homes and buildings with sunlight. Cool your homes with sunlight? Yes, nature does. At one time we had a full ozone layer around in our stratosphere. It is being endangered. We're losing part of our ozone. What it did, when the sunlight comes in on the summertime, it comes in perpendicular to the ozone en route to pass through. In the wintertime, it hits obliquely and deflects off. Actually, in New Brunswick, we are closer to the sun in the winter than we are in the summertime. It's because of the way the light hits our property, the infrared light, it passes through in the summer, but not in the winter, not as much. Boy, I think I missed something. I'd like to talk a little bit more about heating up. Right now, the average family uses 100 gallons
2 minutes.
of water each and every day. That's a lot of hot water. Less than 10% goes to drinking and cooking. We can heat that water, preheat it with our sunlight. And not only use it for bathing, also for heating your homes. And I guess that's the end of my presentation. And if we have questions, I have a lot of details I can discuss if you'd like to answer or ask.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for what is a very thoughtful and very detailed presentation. And I particularly liked how you included what everybody in the town, some of the things that everybody in the town can do to help prevent climate change and help us move forward in a more sustainable way. Are there any questions from council for Mr. Brown on his presentation? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence?
I would just ask, what's the one simple thing that everyone can do, in your opinion? What's the
Okay.
biggest thing we can do?
Take advantage of our ground energy sources, our sunlight energy sources. How do we landscape our property? And if you haven't seen the whole presentation, because I just kind of highlight what was there. There's a 100-hour discussion in this here meeting, and a 3 or 4 week discussion. And if there's one thing that you can look at the slide, I think it's slide 7 or 8. Starting from Professor Suzanne Tamar of UBC, Health Tree Talks. Even if you just look at that one slide and look at that presentation, it's about 15 minutes long. I think you'll have a different view about forestry. And she's a forestry professor.
Thank you.
We have any other, Councillor Bellmans?
I think you're trying to get to, we change our lifestyle, make a better planet for everybody. We change our lifestyle and reduce
Yes.
use and,
Yes.
and
Everything helps.
everything helps we do in this world. And I enjoy reading your package, to be honest with you. And I said, that's what more we do for the planet, right? So,
We're on the wrong path. And if we stay on that wrong path, in 1990, it was predicted that we'll reach that 1.5 degree warming climate change temperature by 2050. Guess what? We expect to reach it now in the next 5 years.
yeah,
And that's not going to be good for a whole lot of people.
and you touched on planting trees that are just manufactured by companies. I think, like you said, by natural trees sourced like this on our own, that's the best way.
That's the way nature did it. It did it for 10,000 years,
Yeah,
and it worked.
and the trees been here billions of years. Why are we changing it now? And it's always came back, right? So I don't understand why we plant one sort of trees for big companies.
That's under the United Nations, that is the definition of deforestation. One source type plantation is a type of deforestation.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Brown? Well, there being none, thank you, Mr. Brown, for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed reading through it when I went through my kit. I learned a lot. It certainly made me think about certain things and, some of the things that we can do as a municipality going forward. So I really appreciate your time here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. Item 7D, fire department level of service, and we have our fire chief Troy Gotro to present. Thank you. Chief?
Your worship, members of council, it's my pleasure to be here this evening to present to you our draft fire rescue level of service policy. In this presentation, we're going to look at level of service and why it's important to have one. We'll talk a little bit about some service level definitions, as well as if you go through each of the sections, just very high level, and just point out a couple of the more critical factors in each of those sections. One of the common themes throughout this is that the vast majority of this policy was written to reflect our current level of service that we're providing. There's only a couple of little changes, and those will be highlighted as we go through. So a level of service in its simplest terms defines the services that the department will provide, and it sets a standard to which they'll be provided. We set out to develop this level of service for two primary reasons. The first of these is to help council to determine the appropriate investment in the fire rescue department, and second, to inform the public on the services that are provided, as opposed to those who may be perceived to be provided. It's important to understand that the capacity as well as the limitations of their fire department and fire departments across North America and across the world, although all may have the same core idea behind them, all offer very different levels of service. And it varies from community to community, even on a regional level. Defining a level of service within each of the services provided, and I know the word service is used a lot here. So if we decide to provide a certain level of service, for example, fighting a vehicle fire, if council decides that is a service that they want their fire department to provide, they can do that at an awareness level, an operations level, or a technician level. Awareness level is, as described up here, it's just that very basic, they're aware of it. An example of that, kind of real word for the fire department, is when there's a big storm and a power line gets broken off and falls to the ground and can be energized. So it creates a hazard to the community. The fire department responds at an awareness level because we're not electricians, we don't work for MB Power. So we secure the area, we make it safe, and then bring in a specialized resource to actually mitigate and solve the problem. The specialized assistance, in many cases, does not necessarily need to cost extra money. We're bringing people, for example, MB Power, it's their transmissions lines that are involved, so they would cover those costs. Hazardous materials spills in the province, we do that to the operations level, which we'll get to next, and that is responsibility for hazardous materials response is the province of New Brunswick, so they have technician level teams that will respond and handle those. Which does bring us to the operations level. So this is where we'll take a little bit more specific actions. So in the example of a spill, if you have a tanker that's leaking hazardous material, we'll be out in the kind of outer perimeter of that at the operations level, and we'll create dams or dikes or some way of containing that spill. But the specialized assistance that'll come in, being the provincial hazmat teams, will be the ones that will actually go into the hot zone, stop the leak, and then bring in the appropriate resources for cleanup. Technicians is, as defined, is basically the person or the group of people that come in and from start to finish can completely handle the incident on their own without any assistance. Oftentimes, awareness and operations is actually enough to handle the incident, but you're still providing to that level in case it reaches a point where a technician is required. Defining the level of service does not represent an impact on our operation or in operations or budget, with the exception of any new services that are identified here. The levels applied throughout this policy reflect the department's current level of service. The intent here is essentially to take what we are currently doing and formalize it in a policy. So section 4, which is the first section outside of definitions and kind of the preamble of the policy, refers to equipment replacement. And this one recommends setting a 20-year life cycle for firefighting apparatus. So from a financial perspective, This is kind of a decision of council. While ensuring apparatus and equipment are replaced according to FD standards may result in additional costs, there is a potential for some savings through insurance and maintenance. Reducing insurance costs to property owners by allowing the department to attain and maintain fire under superior tanker shuttle accreditation, which results in homeowners having lower insurance rates. And then on the maintenance cost side of things, typically obviously as vehicles age, they cost more to repair. And what we're finding now more often is manufacturers aren't really creating quite as many parts as they used to. So when you have an apparatus that's over 20 years old, no different than say a car that's over 10 or 15 years old, finding the parts is a lot harder than it was 20 or 30 years ago. So that makes maintaining these older vehicles much more expensive. Back to the FUS Superior Tanker Accreditation for insurance, just as a piece of information, they only recognize fire apparatus that is 20 years older, 20 years or younger. So anything over 20 years, if that's in your fleet, when you do that testing, you can't use that vehicle. Section 5 is our Incident Command Service. This is another one which meets our current operations, and it just simply discusses the provisions of ensuring that there's a coordinated approach to the response with responder and civilian safety at the forefront. One of the terms that's used in there is rapid intervention, basically that we will have a rapid intervention team on site of any, not any emergency, but any emergency where firefighters are entering a hazardous environment. A rapid intervention team is simply a crew of firefighters that are standing by, ready to be rescuers to firefighters. So that if a team that's in doing a fire attack, doing a search, doing ventilation on the roof, encounters a problem, they're in trouble, they need someone to come and rescue them, the RIT team is there and able to do that. Section 6 is training. Looks at making sure our firefighters are appropriately trained to do the tasks which are asked of them. This one again reflects our current operation. Our new records management system is offering us an improved way of recording training as per this policy. And in New Brunswick, the Office of the Fire Marshal sets the training standards for firefighters, and the community college administers the training. We have currently on our department 6 instructors who are qualified to teach for the community college, so we're able to provide much of that training in-house. Section 7 and 8 I've combined together as life safety, fire prevention, and investigation services. This does bring the first option for council to increase the level of service. The Fire Service Review recommended the department bring inspection and investigation services within the scope of the department. Both are currently partially being provided in-house and partially being provided through the Office of the Fire Marshal. Mainly being, we do a lot of fire prevention in-house, we do a little bit of fire investigation, fire cause determination in-house, but any larger fires, any fires with a dollar loss or injuries or fatalities, we bring in the Fire Marshal's office to do those. And inspections of multi-residential units and commercial items are done through the Fire Marshal's office. At this time, we're recommending that council not do this, that we look at the future of a benchmark of say another 1,000 residents or a 5% increase in our ratio for residential versus non-residential. And fire prevention, as we say, we're able to increase that with our in-house. Section 9, emergency response. This provides statements around responding to incidents and providing aid, and represents current operations. Section 10 sets a standard for members joining the department. So our new member training program covers many of the things in this. NFPA, based on our size, NFPA 1720 is the recommended one, which would set our response capacity at 10 firefighters in 10 minutes, 80% of the time. 1710 is for full-time fire departments. Their standard is 15 firefighters in 9 minutes and 90% of the time. So our response levels is based on the service matrix and Alberta Fire Services core competency frameworks, which was provided by TSI, who conducted the review. The policy is designed to reflect current service provision level with the one exception of the recommended new service level of water rescue. The cost for that service would be an upfront capital expense of approximately $90,000 and an annual training and maintenance cost of about $5,000. As a note, section 19.3 of the policy is to cover the account for extraordinary events that would come outside of maybe responding outside of our community, and we're waiting for insurance information on that. And that concludes. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Do we have any questions for the chief on his presentation? I have one. You talked about the 20-year replacement for apparatus.
Yes.
As a best practice and level of service going forward. How does that compare with what is required by standards in terms of replacement of apparatus?
That is the standard.
So it is the standard.
Yeah, NFPA
So
is 20 years
20 years.
and the insurance company is 20 years, or insurance industry.
And I had another question about the new records management system. That was a recommendation that came out of the fire services review, was it not? Or is this?
Yes, it was. It was also something that was kind of underway during the review as well.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Do you have any, Councillor Bellman?
Back to your question about the 20 years, can you apply another tanker to the truck or to itself? If the trucks only have a 20,000 kilometers on or 50,000 over the course of 20 years. So can you put an application on that truck again or no?
You mean put a new chassis underneath an existing body?
Yes,
They're-
like a pump system, whatever, ladder system, on the
Yes.
same truck.
Sometimes that can be possible, so you can, in a sense, refurbish the truck. There are some caveats to that though.
Yeah,
That would
some
have to be
trucks are in good
investigated.
shape, right? And there's somebody, like I said, only 30,000 kilometers on it and they're a little low mileage.
Yeah, it's actually the chassis that would have to go. You could reuse the body, you wouldn't be able to reuse the chassis.
Do you have any other questions for the chief? I guess there are none, though. Thank you very much for the presentation and the work that went into it. Chief, appreciate that very much. The motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 7E, Fundy Regional Service Commission. We have Brenda McCallum with us here this evening. Welcome, Brenda. We are pleased to have you here.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for, first of all, your worship and council. Thank you very much for having me here tonight to present. So I am here to present the regional draft strategy. I want to emphasize the word draft as well. So this regional strategy is the first of its kind in the Fundy region. This is the first time our 7 communities have sat down together and looked at a 5-year plan across these new mandates that we're looking at. And as you are aware, with local governance reform and changes to your municipal boundaries, the regional service commissions have also undergone quite a few changes as well. So the very first, one of the first issues that the province also said is put in place a regional strategy across these new mandates and look at it over the next 5 years. So this strategy, sorry, I think you're one ahead of me.
Actually, you do have a clicker.
Oh, I have the clicker. Am I hitting it myself? Am I doing it as I go, or? Okay. Thank you. So the this was developed through the guidance of Dillon Consulting, and through the strong guidance of the board and then the committees as well. So we have committees developed around each of our new mandates, and then we went out to our partners and stakeholders as well. We had a very vigorous engagement process. We reached out and sought feedback from 91 different organizations, 185 individuals, and 10 Indigenous communities. There were many hours put in around the table as well. And the boards spent numerous meetings going through the information as well. Once these regional priorities were established, And we held up this lens back to the community partners to get their feedback. Then now we're at the, what we heard coming back. And what was really demonstrated through the engagement process was the amount of time, the really valuable feedback that came back. And that was the collaboration continued to come and bubble up. And there is this regional will for collaboration across all of these mandates that was echoed throughout, over and over again through these stakeholders. Avoiding duplication as well. We're not here to do the work of local governments or not-for-profits that are already there. It is looking at how we collaborate, how we extend our reach to the various regions and to the underserved communities as well. And of course, defining what the role is of the Regional Service Commission as we go. So the vision for the regional strategy is inspiring collaborative excellence, resilient communities, and valuable outcomes. Again, it's looking at the region in 5 years' time as we deliver a commitment to, for strong service delivery, forging partnerships, resource sharing, and adding value to the communities. We went through a visioning exercise. This happened at the board level, then through each committee as well, and the same values continued to bubble to the top as we went across. And so they brought these values, and these are the shared values across the various committees and the board itself. So building trust. And again, that's that we're new, right? What's happening? How is this work? How is this going to work? Let's build the trust out in the region as we move forward. Look at innovation, collaboration. It's always region-minded of what we're doing. Is this for the good of the region? Accountability and reporting back. Financial responsibility, continuous improvement, and sustainability, which looks at the financial, economic, and environmental state. So any good strategy needs a very strong implementation plan. So around these, around each of the mandates, we've developed 77 actions which feed in through the goals and the values of the mandates. And they are divided into the 4 themes here that are seen. So this: introduce, study, partner, and advocate. I will not read out the 77 actions for each mandate. And we have quite a few different mandate areas. So I'm going to highlight a little bit from each of the different areas that we're talking about. So regional public safety, and I believe Chair Gautreaux is part of that, of this committee. This committee is a very keen committee. They've come together with this, okay, let's get at it and make things happen here. So the vision is, this committee brings together leaders from the police, fire, and emergency measures operation from across the region. There are 35 different unique agencies representing public safety across our region. There are not 35 committee members, but there are representatives from across the area. So they're looking at opportunities to improve interagency collaboration and interoperability. I apologize for all the print on the slides as well. So 2 of the big issues here. One that would be a big impact for regional public safety is a standardized communication system. They're looking at an opportunity to improve communications and compatibility between agencies during critical response initiatives. And then a long range is to examine the training needs of all agencies and examine joint training initiatives that could improve access to training and look at decreased costs. Regional transportation, and regional transportation is chaired by Mayor Merrifield. So this committee will look at strategic issues around all modes of transportation and the connectivity. Again, we're looking at regional connectivity, and then develop an integrated plan for the future. They've developed 5 goals and 10 actions. So one of the quick wins here is to develop a regional Share the Road campaign. So this campaign would be promote safety and reduce accidents for the different road users. So again, something that we can develop, implement, and share across the region fairly quickly. A big impact is the long-range development of a master transportation plan for the region, including the connections for active transportation. So that land use planning is not a new service that we're offering, but it has been around for the last 10 years. And this is a service that we provide for communities that don't have their own planning and building inspection services. But there is a regional aspect to it as well. And one of the actions that can be completed here is to look at examining a collaborative planning and building inspection services for the region. There is also a push coming from the province as well to create a regional master plan. Community development. Community development has a very broad mandate. So community development includes social inclusion, newcomer settlement, affordable housing, and healthy communities. One of the very first steps of this committee will be to do an asset map of the current programs and services that are offered and look at how we can work. Again, how can we streamline things? How can we expand out to what are the needs of the other communities? A lot of these services are offered in the central area of the region. Regional facilities. So the Fundy region has a really strong history of collaboration with the 5 facilities. So this committee is looking to build upon that and develop an approach to future regional facilities and what that would look like. So one of the quick wins that this committee will look at is the implementation of a financial and performance evaluation system for existing facilities, including regular audits and analysis to identify areas for improvement. Economic development and tourism, we have an agreement with Envision St. John, and they have a regional strategy and KPIs. Quicker, solid waste. Again, another existing mandate. I'm going to slip through this one. So at the end, we're looking at as well, for one of the things that is coming, we'll have an implementation plan and a scorecard as we go through the actions. Also included at the back of your regional strategy, I believe you have a full copy of the strategy with you. So there's also, all of the actions are listed, their priority, the complexity of each of the actions, and then a deadline with them. So for next steps, we are out, this is the draft. We're here. We'll be going to each of the councils looking for your feedback from the regional strategy. We have a 1-month period for this time. And then the commission will vote on it at the July meeting.
Thank you, Brenda, for the, I know, Brenda the wire. Thank you very much. I know it's been a huge lift with the regional strategy, the deadlines that the government of New Brunswick put on the commission to get this done in time. It was a significant lift for everybody. So I know you guys have all been working very hard alongside the the commission and the committees and everybody that was involved, Dylan, et cetera. So I'll just open up the floor to any questions from council on the draft strategy as presented. Do we have any questions for Brenda at this time?
Just a comment, your worship, Brenda, your committees and the entire organization have done an awful lot of work in a short period of time. You're to be commended. There's some changes, I'm sure, that will come as a result of the input received over the next few weeks. But congratulations on a good first step.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? And again, Brenda, I know that you've been doing the lift on community development most of it. So, and I know that's a big deal. So thank you for your work on that. And just again for everybody at home, the period for feedback is now on the draft strategy. So that will be happening via council and committee, etc. And adoption will happen in July at the next regular commission meeting there. So, all right. Well, thank you again. And if there are no other questions, we'll let Brenda go home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay,
Thanks, Brenda. So the motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the information as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Your worship, I need to step
The record reflects that Councillor Day stepped out of the meeting temporarily at 7:56. Item 8, minutes of previous meeting. 8A, regular council minutes of June 12th, 2023. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of June 12th, 2023 as presented. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Bailman. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 9, unfinished business, there being none. Item 10, bylaws, there being none. We will move on to item 11, new business recommendations. 11A, the YMCA's Glen Carpenter Revitalization Project. John, can you speak to the item?
Your worship, forgot her title, CEO and president of the Y has talked to me a few times about the Glen Carpenter project. What they're looking for is an ongoing annual investment of $5,000 per year for 5 years. My recommendation is the council refer that to our budget deliberations. And the other thing too is the Y has extended an invitation to council to take a tour of Glen Carpenter Center of what it is today and what they hope it to become. So then that would be another doodle poll that will have to go out for council to be able to get that tour. So I'm just suggesting, your worship, that refer to our budget deliberations.
Thank you, John. I'll read the motion and I'll open the floor to comments and questions. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield refer this request to budget deliberations. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor McIntosh Lawrence?
I just have a question, and I'm not sure if you would know the answer, but do you know if the $5,000 contribution, if that would guarantee a certain number of seats for Grand Bay-Westfield children?
No, I don't know. That would be a question to ask on the tour. I do know all the local governments throughout the region are being asked to contribute. And it's my understanding in a previous report provided by the Y that a significant number of children and youth do use their various facilities.
Nicole, would you let the record reflect that Councillor Day returned to the meeting at 7:59 p.m.? Thank you. Do you have any other questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. 11B, Annual Report 2022. John, can you speak to the motion, please?
First, your worship, I just want to commend Brock and James for the leadership they provided on getting this project done. Each year since I've been here, we've taken some big steps this year. I think we did more tweaks and stuff to get the report ready. This is a legislative requirement. We've also, the emphasis since I've been here is to treat this as a marketing tool for the town as well. So we try to accomplish both those things, Your Worship, but all the legislative requirements are in there.
Thank you, John. So the motion is that the council of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the report, and that the report be made available per Local Governance Act 2017, Section 105, and Regulation 2018-54 on www.grandbaywestfield.ca and at the town office. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Balcom. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, I'll just echo John's comments on to staff. Thank you to our communications manager and everybody that was involved in putting this together. It looks better and better every year, and it is a marketing document for our town as well as an informational and communications document, and I think it has achieved that. So thank you very much for the work you've done on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. 11C, Assistant Clerk. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield extend appreciation to Brock Belding for fulfilling the role of Assistant Clerk for the past year, and that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield appoint Nicole Kelly as Assistant Clerk. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Bellmans. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. John, please speak to the motion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our communications manager stepped in to act as acting clerk. I did a terrific job, and it was just temporary when he was appointed, and I think he's going to feel a little bit of relief, and it's good to have our executive assistant / assistant clerk here.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. And yes, I would like to officially thank Brock for the work that you've done, and welcome back, Nicole Matilda. Thank you. Item 12, bills for payment. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield authorize the June 26, 2023 bills for payment as presented in the amount for $280,960.28. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Any questions or comments on the motion? That's in first. All right, second, okay. All right, there being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you. Item 13, consent agenda. 13A, Minister Alain, read Bill 45. B, Transportation Symposium Final Report. C, Fire Rescue Department Monthly Report May. D, Tax Rate Differential Draft Regulation. E, UMNB Tax Differential Response. F, Thank You Card. G, Deputy Minister Memo, read Bill 45, and Consent Agenda. The motion is that the Council of the Town of Grand Bay-Westfield receive and file the consent agenda items for June 26, 2023. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Councillor Balcom, thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried, thank you, Council. Now, item 14, Council reports. For anyone watching at home that hasn't watched our meetings before, Council reports are just brief reports from each councillor, and they make me do it too, sometimes I forget. But they're just 2 or 3 minute reports on what Council has been doing in the background in between meetings. Sometimes you don't get to see all the good work they do, and this is an opportunity for us to let you know what we do behind the scenes. So we will start with Councillor Balcom today.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last Wednesday, I had the pleasure of listening to the first of many Wednesday night evening music in the park at Unity Park, and you gave a very good introduction, Your Worship, to those in attendance. Looking forward to many more evenings this summer. And yesterday, I had the opportunity to drop by and say hello to two young students who were manning the Explore New Brunswick van in the afternoon when they were parked at near the entrance sign of Blueberry Hill, just off River Valley Drive. And had a good chat with them and told them they could come back at any time they wish.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Balcom. Councillor Bailmans.
Well, the other night, Thursday, was a State of the Union with your speaking. It was a good day in the morning, and in the afternoon we had the workplace harassment seminar that I'd like to have happen there, and that's good. And we had the bike rodeo June 17th, and well attended this year, and a lot of people turned out. And that's about all for this year. So.
Thank you, Councillor Bailmans. And we have Councillor Burke.
Okay, so last Wednesday, I had to have a record check done, so I just wanted to let you all know how that went. It's Wednesday between 9 and 3, so I got there around 11. It took 18 minutes for me to go in. There was quite a lineup, but in 18 minutes I was back in the car, and it was continual revolving door. So everybody that was in there was chatting, and it was all related to record check. So there definitely is a need for that service there. So, but it went well. Also, I really enjoyed the Unity Park music. The weather was great, and which makes everything better. The bike rodeo was really fun, and it was very well attended. And I was thrilled to be on barbecue again.
I noticed that, Councillor Burke. Yes.
I wasn't the chef though. Also, I thought the State of the Town was a fantastic information session, and I really enjoyed meeting different people, and I'm really looking forward to that again. That was a really, really professional, classy event. I loved it. And also stopped into the Explore NB booth and spoke to the team that was offering promoting tourism for New Brunswick. So that is all for me.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Councillor Day.
I was to the town address the other morning bright and early. And other than that, most of my committees have quieted down for the summer.
It is that time of year. So thank you. We appreciated your attendance and support at the breakfast. Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor McIntosh Lawrence.
So on June 17th, we had the bike rodeo. It was, I think, the best attendance that I've seen since I've been on council, so that was great. And I'd like to thank the councillors that attended and manned the barbecue. And I'd also like to congratulate Hayes Craft and Jolene Elder. They were the winners of the 2 brand new bikes that we gave away. On June 22nd, that was a busy day. It started out with State of the Town, bright and early that morning, and I agree I didn't really know what to expect, but it was a great learning opportunity, great for networking. I really enjoyed it and looking forward to the next one. And then the afternoon was the harassment workshop, and that night we had our impromptu Community Vitality Committee meeting with discussing Canada Day, so we're just putting the final touches on that. And I will say that the weather isn't looking great for Canada Day, but if the weather does play a role, we do have a backup plan working with RBCC. And yesterday I also stopped into Greenwich Point to meet with the Explore NB truck and get some swag.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Toole.
Hi, sorry for the voice. I've been away more than here for the past few weeks, but I guess one of the highlights would be, like everyone else, the State of the Town address. It was a fantastic event. I think it was one of the other councillors mentioned earlier, proud to be a councillor in the town, just to hear about what's been going on there. So that was excellent. And something I really found great was listening to Gary Crowley, who was putting together a business group in the town, to hear that there were, I believe, 60 businesses was the number that he spoke of, or 60 people who were interested in joining that business group in the community. So that was excellent. And the only other thing would have been, I've been helping Councillor McIntosh Lawrence and town staff with the Canada Day, so we are keeping our fingers crossed on weather. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toole, and I hope you're feeling better soon. Thanks for joining us even though you're under the weather, I appreciate it. So I guess that leaves me, I'll keep it keep it brief because I think you guys have covered most of what's gone on here and where I would have been as well over the last couple of weeks. One thing that I did attend was a conference in Fredericton called the GovMaker Conference, and it was all about how to use collaboration, modern tools and data to develop better policy. I'm hoping to take some of those learnings and apply it to what we do here in the town going forward. I was part of a tour, a mayor's tour of UNBSJ a couple of weeks ago as well, taking a look at all of their facilities, learning about what they're doing now, what their plans are for the future. That was absolutely interesting. We have a lot of students from Bay-Westfield that go to that campus, so it's a very important asset for us as a community and as a region. State of the town, of course, I've already mentioned that once, but I'd love to mention it again. It was a really great morning, and I really enjoyed having a chance to talk with everyone that was there. And Deputy Mayor already referenced the launch of our business owners group, which is a really great step forward for the economic development of the town and support of all of our businesses that are here. So I was thrilled to be able to help facilitate that as a town. I've attended several committee meetings with the Fundy Regional Service Commission, including our monthly meeting, which was the launch of the regional draft strategy, which Brenda McCollum presented here this evening as well. And again, like I said before, that will be adopted hopefully in July. And I also went and visited Brundage Point to say hello to the Explore NB people, which was great. I came home with a little bit of swag, like I think we already did, and a little bit more information about what you can do in this beautiful province. And again, one of the highlights of my week last week was introducing the first musical act of our Unity Park Summer Series, and it was we try and make a focus on local music, but this group was really local because they were born and brought up here in Bay-Westfield, so that was really nice to be able to have that particular group be our very first one. So I hope to see everybody every Wednesday at 7 o'clock at Unity Park, and if it is raining this year, we're going to be moving the summer series into the Brundage Point River Center. So make sure that you take a look at our socials if the weather looks really iffy, to make sure that you know where the music's going to be. So that's it for me tonight, and thank you again to all of council and staff for all the work you do on our behalf. Item 15, business arising from committee of the whole. There being none, we'll move on to item 16, and the motion is that the council of the town of Bay-Westfield adjourn the meeting at 8:13 p.m. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Burpee. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor McIntosh Lawrence. All in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. Good night, everybody.